Alright, good morning friends. It is Nick Mulbauer here for what I think might be the 100th video we've done for Ben and Nick's fishing adventures. It's been a while. I've been reevaluating, is that a word? Anyways, just the amount of time it takes to go into, filming and cutting the videos, and it just, in my opinion, almost doesn't really seem worth the effort, for, the outcome. But I realize that, it's the effort you put in over time for most things. That being said, I think Ben is kind of bowing out for now. We both are very busy people aside from fishing, and we have a lot of other priorities, and that is, like many others, a big reason behind, the lack of videos in recent history. But, I was like, we're at 99 videos. We at least need to get 100. That being said, I have no idea what the future of Ben and Nick's fishing adventures is. I think I'm just going to try to put out videos when I can. And I think for the most part, they're just going to be educational videos, because that's what I like. I love to learn about fishing, and I love teaching folks what I learn about fishing. Every fishery is different. I'm located in central Iowa, and even though there are lots of things that you can learn from other fishermen from different parts of the country, I think it kind of helps to have a local dude kind of help you out too, because then you can, it's more relatable. So I'm going to try to keep doing videos from time to time. I might be rebranding the YouTube a little bit if I have time. Ben said, like I mentioned, Ben is out for a minute, and I told him he's welcome to come back and, contribute anytime. So Ben is a very knowledgeable bass fisherman and fisherman in general, and he's a great guy, and I'd love to have him keep doing some videos. But I understand where he's coming from, because I don't even have time to do these videos. It's just a labor of love, and I enjoy doing it, so I'm going to try to put out more. This morning I was going to try to maybe crappie fish. We got some seasonal changes coming in. Definitely had some cool downs here in early August, but there's some chop on the water. Not a lot, but it is enough to make vertical jigging crappie tough, even that slight little bit. I may try it, but I think I'm going to focus on bass fishing. So this morning I have tied on a Berkley 4-inch minnow, just a Berkley minnow, and this bait is amazing, and it's on I think it's an 1/8 ounce owner Ballhead jig, and this thing is great. I still get great hookups, ultra sharp hook, and it just slides through just the coarsest rock, and I do not lose them very easily. I can put them through about anything, and if I work it through there slow enough, work it through there slow, you can pull this thing through a lot of different cover. So we're gonna throw that around to start with. I have no idea what the water clarity is. It's too dark yet this morning, and I only have like an hour and a half, because I'm out fishing before work here today. But we're gonna start with that. Might throw on a worm or try to toss a crankbait down a hard break, but I'll just let you guys know what I'm doing as I go. So let's get out there and see if we can catch a fish or two before we have to pack it in for work. I got an hour and a half, so let's go get it done. Might be throwing a different color on here soon. I'll burn it through here one more time. Bit, dude, it's over. First one of the morning, guys, on here. Been struggling. It's a good one too. And there's a brush pile right there where my marker buoy is, so I want to keep them out. Oh, that's a good one, guys. That's probably a 5-pounder. Let's get him in. Get him in. Oh, folks, first fish of the morning. I've been struggling. But look at him. Look at him. Look at that one, guys. I switched to before I even fished this morning. Before I even started fishing, I showed you guys that, you probably couldn't even see it, but I showed you guys that 4-inch Berkley minnow, and that's what it looks like on that owner ball head. 1/8 ounce. And here we go, guys. First fish of the morning. Oh my goodness, it's been a slow start, but you know, this is the only one I catch today. I'm okay with it. Look at that fish, guys. That's the biggest one all summer, guys, right there. Whew. That's a big largemouth. Phew. That's a good one. We're gonna get a picture of this one if she doesn't pop off. We gotta get a picture of that one. That's a big one. I'm shaking. That's the one you don't want to have fall off. Get a picture of that beast. That's a good one. We'll get her back. I don't like holding on to them too long. I'll tell you what I was doing after I let her go, but that is a giant largemouth to start off the day. Beautiful. I'd say that's probably about a 5-pounder. Oh boy, that was fun. Okay, so now that we have her released, I like to get those fish back as fast as possible because I care about their livelihood, because I want to catch them again when they're even bigger. Not to be a broken record, but here's what I'm running. I have the Fluger President XT reel. It's like a $100 reel. And I got the Skunk River Recon 7-foot rod. It's got a pretty rigid tip, and I love that for the sensitivity. It's got ultra wonderful sensitivity, if that makes any sense. And I got 8-pound fluoro on this one. 8-pound fluorocarbon line. I always like to go with the lightest line I can. I actually am not running, other than a rod I don't have on my kayak, I have 8-pound fluoro, 8-pound mono. And honestly, I like fluoro obviously for sinking baits, mono more for like top water and stuff like that. But that first fish came off of this setup right there, and that was amazing. That was awesome. So I'm fishing a point. The point drops down, well, it's pretty mellow here, but it drops off pretty good right here. So we got a lot of different depth changes here. And we got some rock out here, a nice field of rocks out here, pretty coarse stuff. And right now I'm marking around 13 feet of water, so it's a pretty good, you know, I like fishing even sharper breaks than this, but there's just so many depth variations out here that I really like to fish this area, and there's good cover. There's a lot of different rock. And there's a brush pile there, so there's just tons of cover for those fish to set up on. And when I'm fishing that 4-inch, I usually am just dragging bottom. I don't like to lose contact with the bottom, and I just give it little pops like that. Just jig it like I'm jigging for a crappie, more or less, you know, except off the bottom. And that's how I work it. I just work it at a 45-degree angle. I pass through that, and I will work the living heck out of it, guys. Like, I will work it really hard. I will switch colors, and I will switch lures before I leave this spot. I know points hold fish. Points are always a place where fish set up. So especially in addition to there being a point, we have cover. So there are always fish setting up on this. Like every day, fish will set up on points with cover. So I just work through it very thoroughly, because you will catch a fish, guarantee it. I've been fishing this for 20 minutes already without a bite, and I got that one just now. So 20 minutes of fishing. I probably rolled that jig through that spot, this same jig through that spot 6 or 7 other times, but something about that pass was just right that that fish bit, and I caught it probably a 5-pounder. So, you know, just fish very thoroughly. Switch it up. Choose your bait colors based on water clarity. The reason why I went away from the more natural is because the clarity's down. We had a pretty good thunderstorm roll through and it stirred up the water. The water clarity's pretty good, still 2 foot, so for our waters that's pretty good, but I feel like that white is just working a little better. I chose white because the clarity is just a little less than it typically is here. So anyways, getting long-winded, let's get back to fishing, but amazing first fish of the day. So great 100th episode fish right there. So we'll see if we can pop 1 or 2 more before I have to get back home to go to work. Like I said, I only have an hour and a half, so if that's the only one I'm going to catch today, that's the one to catch. So we'll keep at it. We'll keep at it. See if we can get another one to roll, to bite, to commit. Alright folks, bass number 2, and this thing is nothing to look at compared to that first one. I switched to a more natural looking Berkley minnow, same size, 4-inch, little fella. That last one could have ate him. That would have been a meal for that last one. But again, just I'm still on this point. We got rock, we got depth changes. And it's been slow, but you know, I've been picking them off. Like, that's my second one. I've been here the whole time. Been here for probably about 40 minutes now, half hour off this point. Just slowly working it, you know? Just being very, very thorough. I'm not covering a lot of water, but I'm fishing very thoroughly. And sometimes that can pick up as many fish as just covering a lot of water. Just fishing very thoroughly. Just trying to get a feel for, you know, the cadence of my jig. Trying to get a vibe for what they're wanting, and I think I kind of got a cadence figured out. I'm just kind of peppering it with pops, peppering my retrieve with pops. Like I said, always keeping that jig in contact with the bottom. I can feel that jig just bouncing off the rocks, rolling through those rocks. And it's important to know and have an idea and visualize your lure, your bait coming through all that cover. Because a fish might just be set up on one of those rocks and you pop that jig just off those rocks just right. End up with a 5-pounder. Even though I had rolled that jig through that same area for 15-20 minutes and didn't get a bite. Just be persistent. Patience. Just work it down that contour. Work it down that break. I'm working it down anywhere from like throwing it to bank all the way to like 12, 13, 14 feet. I'm working it all the way down, keeping contact. There's a population of fish that are always on the bottom. Some suspend, and just as many will just be on bottom, hanging out, just waiting for that meal to come by. Work the break all the way up to the point, work both sides of it. I usually like to work the sharper sides that go into deeper water faster. Sometimes they'll be set up more on the shallow side. In the shallow areas, you just gotta play the game. Fish thoroughly. If you ain't got a bite in about half hour or so, that's when I would be moving on. Give it half hour. Very thorough fishing, because it does take time to fish thoroughly. It's slow. It takes time. It takes a couple minutes to get that lure back to my kayak. And I haven't fished anything but a 4-inch minnow. I mean, I could stay here all morning and just try to vary my lures. You know, I could put a crank on there and run a crank down there. I could run a worm, you know, down that. I could run a jig down that with a trailer. You know, I don't have time today, so I'll probably be moving on shortly because I want to fish another spot or two before I have to go home. But if I had all morning, I would be experimenting on this point with worms and jigs and cranks for sure. Hey, good morning everyone. It's Nick Mulbauer here, and I am currently in my basement. I wanted to give you guys a quick recap of the footage I shot yesterday morning, the 100th video footage. So I would have liked to have given you guys a send off on the water. I usually like to recap the day while I'm still on the water and talk to you guys kind of about what went down that day, but I didn't realize my battery had died. Story County was doing some work near the water with a skid loader, and I could not hear that my battery had gone out. It usually signals the battery dead, or the battery has died with a couple beeps, but since that skid was running right down near the water, I couldn't hear that the battery had died. So that's the reason why I didn't stick another battery into my GoPro and give you guys a little send off there and a little recap. Anyways, so yesterday I ended up catching 3 fish total. I caught the 2 that you guys saw in the footage, probably that 5-pounder, and then I caught that dinker, and then I caught another fish that was probably in that 16-inch. I would say it's probably 16-inch. And it was a healthy 16. It wasn't skinny, it wasn't fat, but it was just a nice size 16. So that's how I ended up the day, and all those fish were caught on that Berkley 4-inch minnow. I think 1 was caught on a natural color, 2 were caught on the white. I love fishing the natural color, but like I mentioned yesterday, I don't know, intuition was telling me that white was the way to go. The water clarity was about, I wouldn't say cut in half, but close to being cut in half compared to what it has been running this summer. You know, it's usually been a little bit clear, about a foot extra of clarity. So I thought that white might just stand out a little better and might draw those fish in from a little further away. So that's why I picked a white. I had it on that 1/8 ounce Owner Ballhead Jig. Owner is the brand. And broken record, like I said in the footage plenty of times yesterday, that those Ballhead jigs are just great for sliding through cover. It'll slide through rock, like very coarse rock, like pretty coarse rock stuff that I've gotten hung up on with other jig heads. So I can slide it through that, but you have to be fishing it slow. If you rip it through there and keep contact with bottom, you're still gonna get snagged up and be, you know, losing jigs. You also want to be considerate of the weight. That's why I always shoot for having, that's another reason why I always shoot for having the lightest jigs, because lighter jigs for me are easier to pull through gnarly cover. I can pull through rocks, pull through trees. I can just get it out of that cabbage easier. If I do end up getting hung up, those light jigs don't get embedded in the cover as bad. So that's why, you know, you need to be very considerate of your jig weights as well. So one more thing on gear. Yeah, I have 3 rods. I have my 3 rods back here, and that's all I have. I have 3 rods, all spinning rods. One's 8-pound mono, one's 8-pound fluorocarbon. The other I will be switching out at some point. It is currently 14-pound Fireline to 14-pound monofilament, and I just, you know, I have a 14-pound monofilament leader on there, and I usually fish that. I usually fish it with a jig and trailer in really heavy cover. Like when I feel like those fish are up in trees, like, I mean, I'm always trying to get my lures into the thickest cover I can, even with lighter line. And I'll just try to wrestle that fish out of there as fast as I can, even with lighter line, and just get it out into open water so I can just fight it. But when I'm really deep in it, like when I'm talking like not like, so how do I explain this? So when I'm fishing lighter line, I will throw my lure up to the cover, like as close as I can get to it, maybe even touching it and hoping my lure just plops in the water next to it, and kind of around that when I have open spots and can work it in that way. But when I have the 14-pound fire line, that's when I'm tossing it into it, like into the trees, into it, not around it or very close to it. I am in it, and I have to literally wrench fish over limbs and out of that stuff, you know. So that's where I have that heavy line. As I mentioned, I'm kind of getting off topic, but that's what I do with these videos because I'm a total fishing nerd. But I am in the process of switching out. I do think that I can downsize that 14-pound a little bit, maybe 12 or 10-pound. I like the heavier line for the reason I just gave, but I like the casting distance of lighter line. So I think 10, 12 pound. I've never been broke off pulling a fish out of really heavy stuff. And that might just be my waters. I don't know. I mean, there's some thick cover that I've tossed into, and somehow maybe it's miraculous, but I get them out without breaking off. I've been fortunate so far, I guess. So that's the reason why I have that fire line, that 14-pound fire line, but I'm considering downsizing that line just so I can get a little bit more casting distance out of it, yet still hopefully have like the strength to pull it out of some of those really, really thick cover spots. Okay, away from gear and what I was using. So like I said, really quick recap on the recap. See, this is what happens. I just go down the rabbit hole. 8-pound line yesterday, President XT spinning reel, 7-foot rod, super sensitive tip, 1/8 ounce bolt, 1/8 ounce owner ballhead jig, and a 4-inch Berkley Minnow. Chose white color as the color yesterday. White was the color I just went with. Based on clarity, that's just what I thought would be working. Structure and cover I was fishing. Summer months, I work the heck out of thick cover, shoreline cover. Doesn't matter how shallow it is. But the one exception I'll make to that is I like my shallow cover being near a hard break. So if I get like shallow cover on a really long flat of really shallow water, like 4 foot or less, I don't feel like I find as many bass up on that. If I have shallow cover that isn't very far from deep water, I've seemed to find more bass on that. In the summertime, this is summertime fishing we're talking about. So shallow cover, and the other thing I look for is hard breaks. Work points and breaks. Points and breaks, there's usually points that strut out into deeper water, they taper out into deeper water. There's usually a lot of cover on points, and fish just hang out on points, like I said in the video from yesterday. And breaks. Fish are on deep breaks, hard breaking banks. Fish that. Fish it thoroughly, and look for transitions in the cover, or in the what's the word I'm looking for? Substrate or whatever. Look for changes, like, so when it goes from mud to gravel to coarser rock, I will fish those areas on a hard break where I see the bottom content change. So because if you see mud to gravel to rock, that's going to continue out into the water, and those fish will be on those transitions. I'm getting really long here. What's one other thing I wanted to talk about? Oh, when I'm fishing really shallow cover or even deep, it doesn't matter. You have to see that cover. Like if there's a limb sticking out, a fish might be right near that limb. Anything that stands out, cut banks. If there's a bunch of roots going into a cut bank, if the roots are holding a cut bank there, those fish will be in those roots. So there's no such thing as casting your lure as close to those roots as you can, because those fish are traveling along that, but they're also stationed up in the roots. They're in the roots. So you need to get that jig as close as you can, or lure, whatever you're using, as close as you can to that stuff. Roots, just limbs, rocks, like they hold on that stuff, like on it. I can't be more specific about placement of your lure. Is they want it on them. They need to react to it. They need it inches from their face so they can react to it. And they're holding really tight to that stuff. Okay, they're holding really tight to rock, incredibly tight. There's not a word for how tight they hold to that stuff. They're attached to it. They're up on it. Okay, you want to get your lures right up on that stuff too, so that they will react to it or want to eat it, or for whatever reason they're gonna bite it. Okay. So that is what I'm looking for in the summer months. Summary of that: thick cover, thick shallow cover, thick deep cover, whatever, hard breaking areas, hard breaking banks, okay? And work them very thoroughly. Like I said yesterday, I pitched that jig at a 45, so the point's here, and I'm fishing that point perpendicular to that point at a 45-degree angle, so I can roll my jig across that ground there, okay? I rolled that jig through that same area where I picked up that 5-pounder at least 8 or 9 times plus. I fished that whole area for probably 20 minutes prior to getting that first bite, okay? I was about ready. You can hear me talking in the video on that cast that I was about ready to switch out my lure because I wasn't getting bit. Right then, 5-pounder, okay? So work those areas very thoroughly, okay? I'm not a power fisherman. I like to work over areas. I'll admit that. I don't like to just I like fan casting around during certain circumstances, but I don't just roll down the bank. I will sit in an area where I think fish are and have a reason to be there, and I will work that area for a long time. If I don't get bit in a half hour, even in a pretty small perimeter, that's when I start moving on, okay? All right, folks. Well, I apologize if that got long. Like I said, I'm going to be making teaching videos, and the people who, if you want to get good at fishing, like you gotta learn. You gotta learn how to fish. And I like to be a teacher. I'm always learning. I'm constantly learning, but I'm also teaching what I have learned. So these are tips for you guys, if you can sit through them, and it'll help you reevaluate what you're doing when you're on the water. Okay. It'll help you, hopefully there's some tidbits you can take away from this video that will help you when you're on the water. You'll be like, oh yeah, like, yeah, do this, like, and maybe that'll help you get bit, you know? So that's what I'm here for, and that's what I enjoy doing, and I just want to help folks catch fish. I know there's 10 billion other people out there on YouTube doing the same thing, but I'm out of Central Iowa. And Central Iowa's waters are different than Michigan's waters. Central Iowa's waters are very different than Minnesota's waters. So this is what I'm doing here in Iowa. It's translatable to lakes all over the country, but if you're an Iowan and you have, if you're fishing old quarries and rivers and stuff like that, this might help you quite a bit, because that's what I'm fishing. So anyways, that's it. That's all I got for you. Long video because of a lot of chatting, but that's how you're gonna learn. So y'all take care. I'm about ready to head out on vacation, and I wish you all the best, and I hope I can keep doing some videos for you, and I hope they're engaging for some of y'all. So take care. I'll see y'all later. Take care. Bye.